Okay.
Hey.
Good evening. My name is Lisa Steele. I'm the artistic director at V.16, where we acknowledge that we are hosted on the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit River, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory, which is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land, and subsequent Indigenous nations, Métis and the Inuit peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Good evening. Welcome to the Curatorial Incubator V.16, Living in Hope, which we all are now, I know. Throughout the fall and early into 2021, we have been and will be hosting 8 different programs that respond to this theme. Since we are fully online, we will post one title each week on Fridays. And at the conclusion of each curator's program, we host a live Zoom conversation between the curator and the artists, which is what we're doing this evening. This evening, we are presenting a conversation between the incubatee, Camila Salcedo, and the artists in her program, Guillermina Buzio, Nella Ochoa, and Julieta Maria. And as I want to introduce Camila, but before I do, I will say that Guillermina Buzio was unable to join us this evening, but we were able to pre-record some of Camila's conversation with her, and we're going to go to that right now. So we're going to switch to that and then come back to our live conversation.
Okay, hi Mina. It's really nice to meet you.
How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good.
It's great that you're able to make it tonight for this recording, even though you can't come tomorrow. I'm happy that I get to talk to you.
Thank you for accommodating also, yeah.
Yeah, of course. So, yeah, I loved your work and I'm super happy that I got to include it in this series. Your piece is obviously very personal and was made a while ago, so I thought it'd be nice to start maybe by just hearing you talk about your own work and kind of reflect on where you were at that time and kind of how you feel about it now.
Okay, so that work has been made through the years. Generally, when I work, it's not that I say I'm going to do this. Mostly, I'm all the time collecting and doing things, and eventually something comes up and I put them together, and that one was very dear to me. It's a very dear video to me because I was doing this performance in a moment where it was a hard time for me, that I needed to heal many things, and I also was looking into having a family. And around that time, I also made a trip to Argentina, and I found this shrine of Gauchito Hill close to where my mom passed. She died in a car accident working, and it was around that area. And yeah, and then the Super 8 is also another shrine that it was kind of more like a tragedy that happened here in the city in Buenos Aires. So all of those things are starting coming together, and I also included people and things that were happening at the time. So yeah, it's very personal. I don't know where I'm at. I had the child after, and you know, some things that I was wishing for, they happened. But I don't know, it's like a part of me that is always there, right? When I look at it. Yeah, I don't know if I see it a lot like a rupture, past and present. That's what I mean. I don't know very well how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, Because you've also performed it multiple times as well, right? Like it wasn't just
Yes,
for the video.
yes, because I did it for, I was doing my master's at the moment, so I did it for school, but I also then did it for the video. And then, yeah, I made it specifically for the video, so I did it a few times.
Okay, great. And I guess I also was wondering about with your piece in particular, like, did you do it live or did you invite your friends to kind of um, participate in the specifically for the video?
For the video, no, for the video itself, well, I used both. I used the performance that I did, that it
Yeah.
was like an open performance, but also for the video itself, no, I did it with like a crew and some people that had a relationship to me in different ways. Not all of them were friends, really. Some of them was a work relationship, or more related to things that I knew that,
Mm-hmm.
happened to them, related to what was happening to me and things like that.
Yeah.
Eh, yeah,
There was
that's,
actually a funny connection because in your credits you mentioned Dot Tour,
yeah.
and Dot actually edited my essay for this series. So it was
Ah,
nice also to get to talk to her about how she was kind of there when you made it as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that was
yeah,
kind of a nice connection there.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, yeah, so one of the things that struck me the most about this piece of yours is the Gauchito Gil as kind of a figure. I'm very interested in, I guess, researching how different kind of different traditions in Latin America kind of are more folkloric, like they're Catholic but not necessarily embraced by the Catholic Church, and a lot of times combine kind of blend other religions like indigenous or Afro-Caribbean religions. So yeah, I wonder, I guess, like what this figure, how it has shown up for you in your work and in your life.
Well, to me, shown up. Well, I always saw them because I always travel a lot around Argentina, and I always liked these altars that we call, because
Hmm.
I feel that shrine is a more Catholic
Yeah.
oriented word. I don't
Hmm.
know a lot about Catholicism, anyways, but it gives me that feeling. So I
Yeah.
call them altars. Anyways, I try to call them altars, and I always like them everywhere when I travel around Latin America, and excuse me, and also in Argentina. And this one was very particular for me because it was around, as I said, where my mom
Hmm.
passed. So every time that I go around there, it's a highway. It's just, but but this one was around there, and I was there with my cousin and a couple of friends, and I told them, let's stop, and then I took the photographs, and they filmed me a little bit, and I wasn't sure what I was doing, but it was there, right?
Hmm.
Because they are generally in the highway, and people leave cigarettes and water and
Hmm.
things, and red, and it's colorful. So
Yeah.
it gave me some time. That this happened many many years ago. I was pretty young, but it was kind of like I created my little something through the altar that I found there. That's why it was very important to me.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, that specific figure. Yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting hearing you talk about these altars because I see these altars like as kind of like ever evolving, ever changing, like even seeing you include the Cromagnon altar video too, like how that was very specific to that time when your video was made. But even hearing you talk about this piece and how you don't kind of rupture like the past from the present in that way, it kind of reminds me of how these altars are in existence, like they are constantly evolving and constantly changing. So Yeah, thank you for telling me more about that.
And I really like from the altars that the people can go and touch things and leave things. You know, people is there, sit, go, leave, cry, do all of these different things. You know, they light up cigarettes and leave some parts. But they are always clean. It's not that people leave a mess. Like people respect them a lot, but they are open and they are for everyone. And I like that. I like that when people can go and do what they feel or what they want also.
Yeah, almost like art interventions, but
Yeah,
of course
yeah.
more like of course more faith-based. But yeah, I wonder because of course one of the kind of main themes I was thinking about through this curatorial incubator is hope. Um, and I was thinking particularly with this series of three videos is kind of how faith in Latin America is kind of like the very real way that hope manifests. And I kind of wonder for you, like whether through your art practice or through your life, if you like what are your thoughts on hope and whether you think it is a catalyst for change?
Well, I think that making art in general, I think that is very related to hope, even though if you use a very dense theme or I think that is related to hope somehow with communication and I, to me that was always a little bit even it doesn't have to be always the shows and the people and all the you know the
The gallery openings, yeah.
all of that like I not that you know
Yeah.
when you just meet with someone and you can do a one-on-one or when you just decide I'm going to write like now I really don't have a lot of time to make cards as I used to have but I keep writing drawing painting sometimes filming and I think that is hope to me. I don't
Yeah.
know, but to me that is hope because yeah, it goes there.
We have to keep making. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, I know. I mean, I think to me that also speaks to this piece because you mentioned it as being healing for you. And I do wonder if you feel like healing did take place after making that work, or maybe an aspect of it for you.
Yeah, maybe some of it for sure. When you, I think that when you do things and when um, I don't consider myself like a performer, but I did
Hmm.
quite a few performances, and I feel a bit that like when they are a little bit like hard or painful, not painful because I'm hurting myself, but painful somehow in your body because you have to be there and you have to be present. I always feel that that becomes a little bit healing.
Because of the durational aspect, like,
Just to go through that, you know, because when you go through that, I feel that you take out a bit, you know, from you, you some weight maybe,
yeah.
yeah, you leave it behind a bit. You always carry your things. We always do. We always will, right? But I think that is good also to let them get through you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that too in reference to the altars. Like it feels like this is a place you go, you have a moment with it, you give an offering or a prayer or, yeah, so thank you. Okay. So welcome back everyone. I'm joined here by Julieta Maria and Nela Ochoa, who is actually in Tenerife. right now, so it's almost midnight over there. And so, yeah, I thank you both for being here. I feel very honored to be able to include both of your works in the program. And of course, hear a little bit more about what you have to say about your work. So my first, I guess, question would be, I'd love to hear you describe your pieces kind of in your own words. And I know both of your works were made a while ago. Nela's work is from the 80s, so even before I was born. Julieta, your piece, I think it's been like 10, maybe 10 years or so. So I'd love to hear, I guess, how your perception of the work has changed also, how you feel about it now.
Should I start?
Yeah, whoever wants
Okay.
to go first.
Go ahead.
Well, this, yeah, maybe I'm trying to think about how my perception of the piece has changed, but I don't think it has changed that much. It's pretty much the same impulse that I saw back then. But to describe the piece, I'm facing the camera, but my face is not visible, and I'm holding a fish. And the fish is dying. It's out of the water, and I'm holding it against my chest. And the only sound in the video is the sound of the sea. So it's a progression as in time as the fish, I guess, dies, but then by the midpoint of the video, I rewind or I play it backwards. So it's like a palindrome in shape. Although not many people notice that. You noticed it mostly when the water starts to reverse, to go back far. But doing this piece, my intention was to, I was interested in taking actions that were not necessarily controversial or hard, but decontextualize them in such a way that they would take on more weight. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but for example, in the case of the fish, this was a fish that I got with fishermen at that same beach. So it was already caught in the net when I took it. And then I made the video. So the destiny of the fish was the same as it was going to be. Like, it was already a fish that had been caught and destined for consumption. And actually the fish was consumed afterwards. So I just inserted myself there in the performance. So it's not an action that you necessarily, it's not something that you wouldn't do. It's something that is done every day. People fish, people kill fish, people eat fish. So, but by giving it a moment and to think about that life and the contextualizing that process in the video, then I give it some weight and other considerations arise. So that was the idea.
Yeah, thank you. I like the way that you describe it and how you're kind of inserting yourself in the life of this fish, and how you're kind of embracing the fish as it dies. And I think that's like a really beautiful gesture. Thank you for describing it. Nela, do you want to tell us about your piece?
Yes, well, I will start saying that I was living in Paris at 1985, and I had distance from Venezuela, so I was studying choreography, contemporary dance. So I really had the time to look at gestures from far away and to start finding the meaning of those gestures and how different they were from the gestures in France. So I did a first video, San Joaquín es un gesto. And then I started planning on this, studying all the gestures surrounding the Catholic religious, which I was raised in, and not very nicely. So I started doing all these choreographic gestures for this video, putting people, I did it in Caracas, actually. I didn't do it in Paris. Came back. And I put normal people to do all these gestures in a very choreographic way, but taking all the meanings of the Holy Week, how they put the saints with these purple tissues over, fabrics over, they cover them. And then this legend that he who bathes on Good Friday will become a fish. It's impressive when you just say your adventure with your fish, because I had to take a fish also for this video and let it die in video as well. So, well, in the video, there's a lot of this gestures, religious gestures, and well, it is a weird way of doing them. And it's a long video. It's 17 minutes. At that moment, video art wasn't very popular. People didn't know how to label it. And we had the contribution of the television in Venezuela, because the technicians didn't know what to do with the special effects. So they would give us the time for free to use all those machines and to add all these effects that you see in the video. We worked from like 10 o'clock in the night till 6 o'clock in the morning editing during several days, but for free. So it's a very high quality production. And we could afford that at that time because it was a very new thing and everybody was working for free. But we said it was a video energy because everybody wanted to be in it. So, well, I continued working with gestures and X-rays as well. And that led me to genetics, which is my actual work right now. I work a lot with genetics right now.
Wow, I didn't know that actually, how this kind of led you to that. Yeah, I think one of my other questions for you, Nela, was like the relationship between dance and visual arts for you, and kind of like how they come together, especially in this piece.
Yeah, well, actually, I have always done, since a very small kid, dance and painting at the same time. Then I studied design, graphic design, and I continued doing contemporary dance. And I wanted to do a piece with gestures, but gestures had to be so close that I couldn't do it in a stage. So I had the idea of doing it in video. So the first video, that was 85, San Joaquín es un gesto, I did it in Paris. And then I found out that it could give me another approach, doing it in video than doing it on stage. And in my videos, I have also paintings of X-rays, because I was studying the gestures, but I was going inside the body at the same time. So I have a mixture of video installations, choreography, painting, and sculpture. And at that moment, at the 80s, a curator told me that I had to decide what I wanted to be. I was going crazy doing dance and choreography and video and painting and sculpture and video installations. I had to decide. But I told him, look, nobody's paying me anything for doing any of this, so I'm going to continue doing it. Years after, he told me, thanks God you didn't listen to me and you continued doing, because afterwards it's called like multidisciplinar or something like that. No, so I always tell the people that don't get the labels on top of you. You do what you have to do, and later on the curators will find a way to put labels on it, but it's not your problem.
I love that. Yeah, thank you. I think, Julieta, one of my questions for you was, I guess, about the gesture of sacrifice. I think, I mean, both of your pieces kind of touch on Catholicism, and it's I guess, something I'm very interested in exploring and unpacking. Specifically with your piece, Julieta, I'm wondering if you were thinking about like the long history of Catholicism with like martyrdom and self-sacrifice, and of course like this being a way or an idea of getting closer to Christ, or if there was any kind of consideration of that aspect in it for you.
Maybe unconsciously. I knew it had to do with religion in general, and well, I was raised in a Catholic country, although my home wasn't particularly Catholic. My father was a Marxist, and my mom was more of a Catholic, but she didn't really, we weren't pressed to go to church or anything. But I did, well, nevertheless, all the guilt, for example, and fear associated with Catholicism. I'm familiar with all that, and I lived it also. But when I was making the video, I was thinking, I think I had read Bataille, and so I was thinking more in the concept of sacrifice and the sacred, and excess in terms of the sacrifice is something that it's an excess. You don't consume it. It's an offering. It's an offering that is you take away from this thing. You take away its utility, I guess. You take away the utility of it. Like it's not something that's gonna actually be consumed, but it's something that is an offering. It's gonna be just sacrificed. So yeah, I think that was in my head. It's not like I thought about doing the video just around that theory or anything, but yeah, I had that in my head when thinking about what I was doing.
Yeah. Thank you. Let me see here. I guess I'm also just wondering in general about what hope means to each of you, and like how it shows up in your work and in your life. I think with this collection and series, I was thinking about how I don't always feel like hope is productive or is a catalyst for change, because it's a feeling that it makes you feel like you're doing something even though you might not be. Like, I think it could spur change or action, but hope on its own is not, I guess, a source of action itself. So that's kind of why I was thinking along the lines of faith and how faith shows up in a very real way in Latin America, it's like the way that hope is almost embodied through like giving all your trust to God in a way. I'm not a religious person at all, but it's a very real part of my upbringing, and I think both of you as well. And so yeah, I'm just wondering what you think of hope and like how it shows up for you in your work and in your life.
Well, I wanted to say that I really suffered religion all my life because my family, especially my mother, was very religious, and we were forced to go to mass every Sunday, and the Holy Week was something terrible because it was almost every year was my birthday. And, you know, everybody was in the beach and we were in Caracas and we had to go to the church. So it was really a nightmare. So I had all, and the nuns were terrible. I didn't like them at all. All my life, I felt that I had like two vultures here, you know, the black birds that were religion, until finally I got rid of that. But this video was a very particular way also of putting like a mirror in front of all these gestures that can be very hollow, because people kill and people do horrible things, but then they go to mass and then they pray and then they go out and they do. So I don't really believe in all of that. I think that I have a special spiritual work with my work and with people and with humanity, but I don't believe in any kind of laws that dictate the way you should act or not. I think it's common sense and humanity and goodness, but not a law of religion. And I'm speaking for all of them. They're worst religions than Catholics, but in Venezuela and in Latin America, these religions really are making people sometimes not even do an effort, because they say that God sent it. So they have to support it because God sent it, and they have to support it. So it's really a thing that keeps people down, that really doesn't, I don't think it helps. I think it's a way of keeping people in a sub not letting them do things at full capacity, because they're always waiting for God to help them or do the things for them. Mm-hmm. So hope finally is a big lie for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why your work spoke so much to me, because you almost created a society in which there's like a cult, and it really speaks to like the way that Catholicism can be, like this mass mentality. So yeah, I would have to agree with you there.
I really like the gestures in your video too, like the choreographed gestures that are kind of based on the ritual, but not. Yeah, I like one that is like you're eating something.
Yeah.
Like.
And the kids enjoyed it so much. The kids doing it, they really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. This talking about hope or faith. This video was part of a series called Exercises in Faith. Mm-hmm. But to me, I think like just making art, like being an artist, for example, to me was like an act of faith. like embarking in this thing where you don't know what the result is going to be. Just living it's also an act of faith. So it was kind of, I think, a way to convince myself that yes, it's worth acting. It's worth acting, even though there's uncertainty, and then that's, I think that was faith for me to have kind of that belief in something good will come. It's like things maybe don't make sense in the greater scheme when you think about what life is and why we're here, and or what are we going to become, or does anything matter? But every action, every time you act, it's like a it's like an act of faith to continue and to move on. And you can see that in life, and how creatures or in humans kind of grab onto life. And so I think that was kind of my thinking when I was doing that series.
Yeah, I was wondering about the series. Is this the only work that where the animal actually died in the piece? Because I know there was another one like with a bird where you held the bird.
Yes, and I think that's all determined by what what society does in an everyday context, or what you do in an everyday context also. Because, for example, the video of the bird, it's just the hand holding the bird, and the bird trying to free herself from the hand, and it's just a loop of the movement of the bird trying to free, and then calming down, and then trying to free itself again. But as I said before, it's an action that is decontextualized, because you only see the hand and the bird, so all the tension is there.
Wow.
So and kind of like the fish video is a video where there's not much motion. Like everything is kind of still, but there's tension in like in the case of the bird, the attempt to free itself from the hand. That is something that you would do, for example, if you have birds and you want to cut their nails. It's something that you do. You grab them, like you put them in, I guess, in cages. So it's not something that would be overly cruel to do to an animal, because it's something that people just do. But again, because you're just focusing on the hand and that action in particular, it can create this kind of weight to that action.
Yeah, I guess because it's like suspended in that moment of tension. Yeah, I would agree with you in terms of I guess art being a catalyst for, or art being like a response to the uncertainty of life, and more than hope, it's like a way to, through action, speak to those kind of uncertainties, or maybe even more than uncertainties, like, what's the word?
I guess you could say it's like a replacement of religion in a way. Like a different kind of a different way of thinking about these things for certain artists, not for, obviously not for every artist, but sometimes art can take on that role
Humanity has been doing that ever since we have the Altamira caves. I mean, a need to leave an imprint, explain why are we here, but there is an action, an artistic action that is much more sincere than a religion with laws and with rules. I think that through art, always humanity has been able to go further and deeper than with any religion.
Yeah, through art, we ultimately reject what society tells us we have to be, whereas religion is telling us who we are. So, yeah. Thank you both for your work. I'm really honored.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you all for your work. And thanks to Camila for her curatorial approach to this year's theme of living in hope. And this has been such an incredible discussion of that. I was also raised Catholic, so I was very active. I thank everyone for tuning in tonight, and please stay on the V-Tape website. The final title in Camila's program, which is Julieta Maria's Exercises in Faith, Embrace, which is a beautiful work, will come up immediately after we go down. And Camila's entire program will be available for the next week until 7 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, March 5th, 2021, when the final program of this year's curatorial incubator will begin. And again, thank you so very much.
Thank you.